Okay.
Yeah, that is quiet, even though you turned up the volume, I thought.
No, it's just yeah, you
No,
just
you
said
can
that.
just, okay. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Welcome, Soul y Luna Inspirations with Dayana Robinson and Martin Comtois. This is the Pisces New Moon, Sunday, March 10th at 1 a.m. Gestating a new foundation. Hello. I got my new hat, and I got Dayana Robinson with me
Lovely new hat.
For what is our last Soli Luna Inspirations video together in person. Yes, to it's been delightful to be in person, but we are parting ways physically, and we'll tell you more about that in actually the previous video.
Yeah.
Confusing. Okay, so here we are, the Pisces new moon of March 10th. Whoa. So that's just a lot of Pisces.
Yeah.
So that's the sun and the moon, and we see Saturn there, and then we see Mercury just leaving Pisces, and then we see Neptune in Pisces, and then we see Venus and Mars over here getting ready to enter Pisces. And so Pisces and gestation. What is, what is that? What do you relate to when you think of Pisces?
I like that you use the word gestation, and I get why you do. But for me, Pisces, I often think about as like a closure and a wrap up and a everything coming together and a bit of everything, I guess, because it's the end of the zodiac wheel. So there's this completion part before we launch into Aries season again.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um,
Why do you use the word gestation?
well, I use the word gestation because I prefer it to the word depression.
Fair. Okay.
Because depression, so the libido. So let's talk about some Jungian psychology.
Love it.
So um, Freud used the word libido to mean sexual energy, and that's kind of what we see libido as in our culture mostly. But the Jung looked at libido from a perspective of chi, Shakti or creative energy. And so when Jung wrote this symbol of transformation, which was originally called the transformation of the libido. And then the book after that he wrote the four functions. And the four functions are expression of the libido. And so this libido concept from a Jungian perspective is central to Jungian psychology. It's the life force. And Jung talks about the libido when it moves forward, it's a progression. And when it moves backward, so when the libido is progressing, it's being extroverted. So it's an extrovert. So the extroversion of the libido is an individual who really is outgoing, spending his energy outwards. The introversion of the libido is a regression. So the chi goes inward in a regression, or what we call depression. So the depression, our libido, when you're in depression, you just don't feel it, you're just like, I just want to curl up watch TV, eat chocolate, so the libido, there's no libido. What happens to the libido in a depression is that it regresses into the unconscious. Now, there's a reason for that. It's not a negative thing. That's why we call it gestation, because gestation, it means that the libido is gone into the unconscious, which is an introverted action. So we go into the unconscious to dig out unconscious material that we're seeking to bring to life. So the libido rises with the unconscious content, and that unconscious content, Jung calls it the pre-creative depression. So it's that gestation. We're nurturing an egg before the egg is brought to consciousness. So we're gestating a creative process or a creative project, or we're gestating a transformation. And so that transformation comes when the sun enters into Aries, and then we have the brand new year and the rebirth of the sun. Pisces is the return to the womb and the gestation, so the libido is drawn inward. So it's quite common at this time of the year to feel depressed. It's a pre-creative depression or a gestation. We're actually giving birth to a new foundation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for breaking that down. I love that. It really fits. Here we're tuning in from North America, the island, as you followers know, and it really fits with what nature's doing too. There's some things are starting to sprout. There's a couple little flowers, but for the most part, everything is going through this quiet period before things really boom.
My peonies have sprouted. Oh, I'm so excited.
That's exciting.
I'm not going to be here to see my peonies bloom this year.
I'll take photos.
You'll must then share it with our friends as well. I'm a big gardener, some of you may know, and so I really love peonies especially. Such a beautiful flower. And so, oops, that was a digression. So progression and so now we're talking about a new moon. So traditionally, the new moon is an invitation to gestation. Right. It is an inward rebirth process. This is the only time in the lunar cycle where the moon is not visible at some time in the sky. Even the waning moon is visible during the day in the morning, and the waxing moon is visible in the afternoon. As it becomes fuller and fuller, it becomes really what dominates the night. But then at the new moon, you don't see any new moon. The sun and the moon are exactly at the same place. So at a new moon, when you see the sun rise, you can visualize that the sun and the moon are rising together in a divine embrace. It's associated. Jung wrote a book, is magnum opus, his most important contribution, literary contribution, and we're talking about the very lofty, incredible contribution, but his most important, the one that he thought was the most important book he wrote, was called the Mysterium Conjunctionis. And it's that symbolism, it's the mystery of the new moon. So the healer and the dreamer astrology is based on this sacred marriage, and we look at astrology from the perspective of the marriage of the sun and the moon. So here we have a sun and the moon conjunction, a new moon in Pisces.
Love it. It's exciting. It's got a lot of other things it's conjuncting around too.
But what would a new moon feel to you in Pisces?
Ooh, new moons usually when I'm in right practice with spirit, take time for a little ceremony. And so Pisces being so connected to spirituality and all that there is, as it were, being a really good time to do some spiritual practice for myself, but also probably do a lot of writing practice is how I can find grounding in the many thoughts and feelings and waves of reality. Pisces is a bit airy to me. Like, even though it's a water sign, there's a piece of me that can get very lost in the haziness of it. Fog maybe is a better word form for Pisces, or sometimes I also like how you associate with like the depths of the ocean. So
it's like fishes talking together, you know. It's not clear, clear, clear. And we talked about Mercury in Pisces as well, you know. So yeah, so that's the new moon in Pisces. Let's see what the chart looks like on a one-dimensional chart.
Yeah.
Or that's 2 dimensions. So
oh yeah.
so
gestating a new foundation. I love this term for it. It is definitely what it feels like. And part of that is because down here, we often look at the IC as the foundation of a chart or the bottom of the chart. And we've got the new moon conjunct the IC here. And then it's right in between Neptune and Saturn, with Mercury kind of conjuncting. It's a little stretch, but it's close. And it's just moving into Aries on the other side of the IC.
So what's interesting about this form of this chart, you know, because all the planets are on one side. So that's interesting. So
we would call that a bowl often, right?
Yeah, a bowl or a little cup, or it looks like a little plate now with all of the semi-sextile, the green lines, and then the Jupiter, Uranus, and Mercury, Venus, Mars conjunction and square to each other. That square has been ongoing, you know, throughout March, began in February. So, you know, that Jupiter, Uranus conjunction is starting to really build, you know, a lot of momentum. That's exciting. But let's look on the table. So we have the sun and the moon, and the sun, of course, takes 1 degree a day. 360 days makes a year, right? So the sun is steadily going through, and now it's about to finish its cycle and begin anew in Aries. Now, while the sun is doing that, the moon goes around the zodiac in 28 days. So it meets the sun, new moon, and then the first quarter, and then the full moon, and then the third quarter, and the new moon. That all happens when the sun is in one sign, because the sun is in the sign for 30 days. And so then we have a new moon and a full moon each month. And so then, that polarity between the opposites and the squares are experienced really strongly during the sun's travel through that sign. Now, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, you see Venus and Mars, but then you see Mercury there, the little one there.
Oh, here I can show with this.
Those 3 planets, go ahead, show them. Oh, wow, cool.
This is Mercury, and then this is Neptune back here.
But show Venus and Mars. Now, but mostly Mercury and Venus, but Mars also, they're known as personal planets. And Mercury and Venus are never very far from the sun. So if we look at it, I use the analogy of the king and the queen. So if you have the king and the queen, the king being the sun, the queen being the moon, or the mother and the father, mother moon, father sun, then the children, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So we have Mercurius as the youngest son, and then we have Venus as the daughter, and then we have Mars as the older son. And often in ancient astrology, when you read a chart, you kind of can see that whole archetypal structure. Now, these planets, they have the same kind of yearly cycle and they travel together. Whereas the outer planets, here we have Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune, and then Pluto, and then Chiron, and then Saturn. They move a lot slower. So they're all on one side of the chart, and when the sun will continue to move through them, and then Mercury and Venus will come, and by the time the sun comes into Virgo, then Mercury, Venus, and also Mars will find themselves here. When, so when the sun is in opposition to Pluto at the end, in July, in early July, then Mercury and Venus will have also their opposition to Pluto, and Mars will also follow through. So then when so then if you look at it as a chariot, if we use that analogy of the king and the queen, then the attendants to the court, the attendants to the king and the queen are Mercury and Venus and Mars, and they travel. So now that chariot is traveling. We saw it traveling through Capricorn, all the planets together. Then we saw them all come into Aquarius, and now they're all going through Pisces. Then they're all going to go into Aries. And as they do that, then they conjunct each of the planets that are much slower moving, and they begin new cycles. That's what astrology is, right? It's the study of all the cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that chart is really small. Blah, blah, blah. That was a digression. Did you like that one?
I think it's helpful, yeah. Especially for those of us and you who are learning about the basics of astrology still. And it's just, I mean, forever coming back to the basics of astrology helps you look at things in a new way. And that's what cycles, I think, are all for.
So in Pisces, at the new moon, we have a conjunction of Sun, Moon, Saturn, and Neptune in Pisces. And then Mercury is included in that, but it's just dropped into Aries already. So I wrote the return to the womb and gestation. So that gestation, we broke that down. So what is a sun-moon conjunction Saturn feel like?
Oof. Especially in Pisces, the need to discipline yourself into your spiritual practice is what I would take away from that.
Well, we studied that word, apotropaic. The apotropaic means, so that's channeling the libido. We're taking the libido and we're channeling it into a spiritual activity to renew the libido and to focus the libido. So the channeling of the libido is the forming of the sacred container. So this chart is a little bowl, right? So it's a sacred container. So we're trying to create the container, and Saturn is the discipline that is needed to create that sacred container. So Saturn is the old king, that is the keeper of the Holy Grail, and that is a new need of renewal. And so then we have a sun-moon conjunction with Saturn. We also, at the last full moon, had actually a little bit after the new moon, the full moon, excuse me, we had a Saturn, Sun, Mercury triple conjunction that's exact. And, at the end of February, that's going to be very significant in terms of having the discipline to create the sacred container. And so that's really big.
I think another piece I often look at is like when there is this little cup is often looking at what would maybe help balance it for those who get swept up too easily. And so the Virgo piece being on the opposition to the Pisces, that need for daily practice and grounding self-care really can help these Piscean times if you're finding you're getting maybe having a hard time with the depression or the gestation and needing some containment in that.
That's beautiful. Then what does the Sun Moon in conjunction with Neptune then feel like?
So your queen and your king can being called into redemption, finding new redemption.
That's beautiful. You're a good student. Redemption, the quest for redemption. So what does that mean? The sun and the moon, the conjunction is seeking redemption. What does that mean?
I would look at it, I guess, as part of the feminine and masculine parts of my psyche, or that with how I show up in the world, trying to find new ways to redeem myself and find contentment in the reality I'm in. What would you say?
This word redemption, it has a very religious connotation.
Yeah.
It's about, the redemption from one's sins, which again, Pisces is associated with the age of Pisces, which is the age of Christ. And so Jung really dove into that. And if you're interested in that subject matter, we have a playlist on our channel about Eon. And that's a 6 or 7 episode that I did with hello with Ina in Toronto, and we explore the symbolism and the archetypal structure of the age of Pisces in in-depth Jungian study. Fascinating video, fascinating book, Eon, by Carl Gustav Jung. And so it's the age of Pisces, and it's the eon of Christ as the fisher of fish. And so then the Neptunian, so we've been experiencing Neptune traveling to Pisces, and there's a big call, in all of us, to want to experience a relief from the pain of the times. That's that Neptune and Pisces. Why can't we just experience Eden? Why can't we just live in a better world where there is no sin, the greed, the wars, the political problems, the issues of control and greed and all of the things, and then the sun and moon in conjunction with Neptune want to experience the dissolution of suffering, so that's the nirvana or the bliss, of transcendence. So then that would be sun, moon in conjunction with Neptune. Fascinating stuff, huh?
It's a great breakdown. Very fascinating. That's neat. As you're saying that again, I think of like sin. What helped me reprogram sin in my brain a bit is to go against oneself. And in the larger term is understanding that we're all one and connected. To go against oneself would also be to hurt another. And then in Virgo, one of its strongest attributes to me is to be whole into oneself. And so the idea of sin is if you're whole into oneself, you're not going against yourself as much, versus the opposition would be in Pisces would be going with the flow of everything. And if you're not careful, ideally you're hoping to go along with everything to find yourself in redemption with spirit and away from all suffering. But then to be going and being whole into yourself would be the way we can do that within our own body, within our own personal experience. Anyway, sorry, just reflecting on that polarity.
Beautiful. And that brings us to the interesting problem of evil.
Yeah.
And so, but let's talk about that another time, will we?
Another video coming.
So then we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and that's going to be, so that train, the chariot, we see Venus and Mars, and we see Mercury, the sun and the moon. Well, sun and Mercury are going to fly through, and they're going to be in Aries really soon, and then Venus and Mars are going to pick up speed, and they're going to fly right through into Pisces as well, and all four of those planets will have this big energy shift, especially Mars, because Mars rules Aries, but we got a little while for Mars to come into Aries still. But then once the sun comes into Aries, it will be ruled by Mars. And so then it's going to be very outgoing. And then we have that Jupiter Uranus conjunction that's getting closer and closer. And we have some eclipses that are coming. And as the chariot of the sun and the moon reach into Aries, so spring forward is what, that's got that feel. We can start to feel spring coming on. And then Venus, Mars entering Pisces. Well, that's just a lot of Pisces.
It sure is.
So we're getting to learn a lot about our Pisces myth, huh?
I like that, visualizing the chariot as it goes forward, this eclipse season and moving forward, and then this big expansion and radical new beginnings that may unfold as we come into this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction, as the chariot moves into it.
That's a common question, for the last 10 years or so. All the outer planets are, I've been between Capricorn and Taurus, so Capricorn, winter signs, right. Before, when Jupiter and Uranus were in Aries, and before that, then really all of the outer planets were between Capricorn and Pisces, so all in the winter time. So then the charts in the wintertime were really small bowl shapes, and so that's one of the most common questions I have. How come are all, this is such a one-sided chart? and so that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, I see that a lot too when people ask, why does my chart look like this?
Yeah. There's no such a thing as a simple chart. Everything has its degree of complication, and it may look very plain and simple like this, but just to break it down is an art.
Shall we give them some alchemical opportunities?
Sure, but before that, this is I did the last video by myself, and then since that's been gestating with me and giving form to a new foundation, I figured that, because, it's been really special to have the banter between the two of us, and it really helps me kind of recenter myself and lean on you and reflect on what I'm saying. And then I try to offer you questions as well. So now I'm going to start introducing some of the questions that come up in the comment section.
Oh, I love it.
So we had a gentleman, can't really remember the name, but and it may be a lady, so I would be very careful to address you properly. But anyway, the person said, I just found out that I have a Pisces ascendant. So what would a Pisces ascendant mean?
I mean, I feel like it's always hard for me to take one piece of the chart, but if a Pisces ascendant was to happen, I would figure that the person might be perceived as a bit maybe very loving and open-hearted, but also maybe a little bit not so grounded and never quite sure where they're going.
Well, I was explaining to him in the comment section that the ascendant is what people first see of you. So then you would have that Piscean glow, kind of that absent poet, artist, kind of, mystic kind of blurriness about the personality that would be very magnetic, but in a kind of Piscean kind of way, right? The divine sun, the devouring mother, it would be so cute that it would attract, so that archetypal structure. So then I'm going to take my question one step further what would a Pisces ascendant experience all these planets in Pisces?
I could see them getting a lot of attention suddenly, and maybe also having to revamp how they want to show up in the world and how they want to portray themselves in their community or in their life.
That's beautiful. So when planets transit the first house,
Oh, also health potential issues.
health potential
Big
issues,
time.
but also when the planets cross the ascendant, they experience a rebirth.
Right, like the zodiac wheel.
Exactly. So the ascendant is the beginning of the day. It's sunrise. So then when a planet enters, so the planets, they move this way, but the houses move that way. So let's say the line of Pisces there, let's say that's the ascendant. So then Venus and Mars are getting ready to cross the ascendant. So then when Venus crosses the ascendant, then Venus is being reborn. So then that influences the individual tremendously. Now, when you're talking about outer planets like Saturn will only cross the ascendant 2 or 3 times in a lifetime. So that's a very important time. Saturn in the first house would say that the individual is finding mastery of himself or being invited to do so. And with Neptune in the first house and with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the first house, there would be a mystical awakening of that personality. Now with Mercury and the Sun and the Moon and Venus and Mars, I would say this would be a very inspirational spring for you, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh, all the love and power to you.
Woohoo!
That's exciting.
Okay, alchemical opportunities.
Please comment below on how you found that and keep us tuned into how you experience this over the next month.
Whew. So March 8, Mercury conjuncts Neptune.
What do you think happens to Mercury when it conjuncts Neptune? I feel like it just gets like shot out to outer space and you can't communicate well is the first thing that comes to my head.
Well, Mercury is a very interesting archetype, It's the trickster and it's never unhappy, but it's always making trouble. But, if you look at Mercury as the great traveler, again, Mercury has wings on his feet and wings on his head, and he travels at the speed of the mind. So my sense is that Mercury in the depth of Neptune would be having a lot of fun in the uh, Elysian fields, it's be like heaven, so then there would be an ability, Mercury, to bring down information from the world of redemption, so there would be kind of a messiah kind of feel, or like some important download from the heavens, so then that would be Mercury Neptune. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it. And then on the 10th, just 2 days later, will be this Pisces new moon at 20 degrees of Pisces, like we've been talking about. And then the next day, Mercury ingresses into Aries. So it's just on the cusp, I guess, for the new moon.
So what would be the difference between the Mercury in Pisces and the Mercury in Aries?
Oh my gosh. Maybe finding one of those dreams or some salvation in Pisces and then springing forward with a dream.
Well, Mercury in Pisces, it's like, oh man, this stuff is too deep. I just want to have some fun. And then Mercury comes into Aries and shot out of a cannon, it's just like, woohoo! So because then it's a Martian Mercury, so then and each of the planets coming into Aries, that's going to be experienced like that, as a burst of energy into your own process. And that's why, spring is such a spring forward.
Busy time.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, Venus ingresses into Pisces. So
now
Venus comes to join, the chariot tail comes along.
And Venus is exalted in Pisces, huh? So it loves Pisces. I have Venus in Pisces myself, which is in conjunction with transiting Neptune right now. And I'm going to have there's going to be a Venus-Neptune conjunction in the spring right on my Venus. So that's very interesting, in this big transition that I have. Some Venusian, well, Neptune's been hanging out right on my Venus for about a year now. And so, that's, Neptune transits are experienced kind of like a flooding, like a washing away, like a baptism, and then Venus is the lower octave. Venus is love, and Neptune is the higher octave of love, universal love, Neptune, personal love, Venus. And so my personal Venus love is being influenced strongly by the Neptunian universal love. And so it can be wonderful, but it can also be very conflicted where Venus pouts and says, what about me? I want to be the center of attention. Yeah. What about me?
Maybe this is the new love you're getting through these videos on your online following here.
Got so much love from all you guys from the last video that I did by myself and my birthday video. So much love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Keep the love coming. And then on March 17th, Sun Neptune conjunction, again at 27 degrees. I guess because, right, Neptune is at 27 degrees.
Absolutely. And so then, we continue that, so then the Sun in conjunction with Neptune, that happens once a year. And so it's a mystical experience of divine unity with the sacred masculine, but it's also can be kind of refusing to incarnate into the world. But then
3 days later, it's forced to.
Enters into Aries, so then the gestation will be really strong. And the contrast between Pisces and Aries, and so that's the spring equinox, first day of spring, and the beginning of the astrological new year. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac.
And so the cycle starts again.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days later, Mars will ingress into Pisces. And so then the full inner planets chariot is catching up here. Venus and Mars will be in Pisces by that time, and Mars and Pisces will be ruling this Aries season. As Aries is ruled by Mars.
So we'll have an interesting rulership of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter again, which will be fascinating to start the year. And then we start with the Libra full moon. That's the first full moon of spring. Oh, we didn't.
Oh, you do have them. Great.
Yes, I do have them.
We've got one more thing for you guys.
Yeah, that was an action-packed one. What did you think of this one?
I think it was great. There's a lot of good breakdowns, but also some good things to be aware of in this coming new moon, and also the spring and what we're gestating towards.
And you know the drill, huh? You thumbs up helps massage the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed yet, we really want you to join our community. And if you share our work and help us grow, then you really become an active member in our community. So we appreciate all the help we can get. And it's always interesting, last time in the full moon, in the full moon, I got the devil, which was really surprising. And now we have the
Six of Cups.
Six of Cups is a very celebratory card, huh?
It's also very sweet. There's the sharing going on between what looks like two siblings.
The little all of the cups are filled with flowers, and so that's a very spring image, huh? And um, and there's a little boy giving a little girl some flowers on a marketplace in a little village with a tower in the background, very bright. 6 is the number of the Kabbalah, the perfect number. So then we have abundance, and it's in the center, and you see a guard in the distance, huh? So this is well, Saturn or Mars, or just the fact that this is a very regal, so we kind of have Mercury and Venus and Pisces kind of thing. I know Carol will tell us all about it as we move along. So this is a momentous video, and the last time for a while that we do live together. We've been on a run with the Soli Luna videos for 2.25 years. From
2022.
From winter solstice to spring equinox.
Yeah.
So 24, 27 months.
Wow.
I didn't count how many videos we did together, but it's something like close to 100. Maybe when I have time, I'll refer to that. It's been absolutely delightful, my dear, to work with you.
Such a pleasure and such a delight. Thank you. And thank you guys too for listening, following, and commenting. It's definitely part of the package, and it gets to learn a lot along the way. And I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry, I still haven't bought a lapel.
Well, anyway, I think we figured out how to get the sound better, and we're going to continue to improve. And it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the gestation of a new foundation. Over and out.
Be well. Lots of love, everyone.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.